So Dreamboy, that who was their inspiration? Was it Motown or was it trying to be in the Prince or El DeBarge type of?
I'm glad you asked that question. That's a very good one. Well, everybody from the Dreamboy crew, and I'll name them by name. Jeff Stanton was the lead singer and the creator of the group Dreamboy. He was raised in Detroit. All of them were raised in the Detroit area.
Sure.
And he was raised actually in Detroit, and he grew up around all of these people as a youngster. He's a talented guy. He had a lot of Motown influences in his life. Matter of fact, he was as a kid, he used to be around Norman Whitfield and a bunch of them. They lived on the same street, and that kind of thing. And so they knew. See, the guys in Motown, unlike me, the guys in Detroit, they grew up around these great people, great musicians, which I didn't. I only had a few people that I could go to and say, hey, I admire you, I want to be like you, or how can I get in? Well, in Detroit, it was a whole different ball game. They had influences all over the city. So you had Jeff Stanton, and then you had Paul Stewart, who was the bass player, who also grew up with Beans Bowles. He was Beans Bowles was the actual director for the Motown band, the touring band. So Paul had a lot of history with growing up around musicians in Detroit as well. And then you had Jeff Bass, who was the guy that ended up being the creator and discovery of Eminem. He was out of Oak Park. He was a big guitar player hanging around when it Was Not Was and all those other groups coming up. And him and his brother Mark, they discovered Eminem. And then you had George Twyman, who was the drummer, who also grew up in Oak Park, who had the same kind of influences that Jeff Stanton and the rest of them had, him along with Jimmy Hunt, who was the keyboard player. They were the two youngest of the band. And how I got acclimated with them is that me and George Dewey Twyman, we became friends when I moved to Oak Park. And just so happened we worked at the same place. And history was done then. I mean, me and him hit it off. And, and he was a drummer and I was a drummer. So I didn't know. I was like, oh, shoot, these are a set of guys. He introduced me to all the guys. And man, I was in heaven because I never played with guys my age coming out of Bay City. I'm from Bay City, Michigan, which is 2 hours away from Detroit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't grow up like that. I grew up between basketball and sometimes playing the drums by myself in the basement, stuff like that.
Do you kind of consider that like fate? Like you just happened to be working with a guy that is in the music industry as also and
yeah.
Do you kind of consider that like fate? Like you were in the right place at the right time, meeting the right person?
Oh, for sure. Everything about it. And I say it about my musical that I'm doing on November 14th. Is it just my imagination? What is going on here? What God is putting all this in my lap for a reason, And back then, before Lord G came to LA, I didn't know he was going to be a rapper. I know when I was working with Dreamboy out of Detroit, the management company for Dreamboy, they used to do all the concerts at Joe Louis and Cobo Hall, and every concert to come in town, I was either working that concert or I got in free. I was always there. And one time, Lord G was 12 years old. And one time I took him, it was a rap concert. It was the first Fresh Fest with Run DMC, Houdini, and
oh my God.
Right?
What a concert, man. Holy crap.
Fat Boys was on it.
Fat Boys. All these. So I thought.
Was Sugar Hill Gang hanging around? Because, man, that would have been awesome, too.
So check this out, y'all. I took my 12-year-old cousin to hang out at the show because I knew he liked those kind of guys. And next thing you know it, I'm working and I couldn't find him no more. and he was gone all over the place. And I had to use the speaker system to call him. Can you find his real name is Macanto Fields. Hey, can Macanto Fields come to the back room? And here's this 12-year-old guy running around, just peeping out everything. I didn't know that when he became 16 or 7, whatever year he started, I didn't know he was gonna become the rapper that he was. And sure enough, he becomes that rapper and comes to LA. Hey, cousin, can you help me out? That kind of thing. So all this is fate, man. And me and Laura G is generation. We're cousins, but we're like fourth cousins. My mother and his dad is second cousins.
Okay.
So it makes us like third or fourth cousins, something like that. But our history goes back with our family like that. We're pretty deep.
Are you guys both on the West Coast still?
Yes, I'm actually in Lansing, Michigan right now. But yes, I still have a place in Los Angeles, and Lord G is still in Los Angeles today. And I hope I didn't get off the question because I get passionate about this. I really do. I get passionate.
No. So when you were in Detroit with Dreamboy, and you were the touring manager, and then you were the drummer, correct?
No.
No.
George Twyman was the drummer, and I was the road crew manager, trying to be a drummer, trying to get on board, and then that's how I got in. Is that Dewey asked me to be his drummer assistant? So I felt like, I'm gonna get a chance to play, so I'll do anything I can to get involved, and that's how I got involved.
So was Dreamboy ending, or were you at the point where it's like I kind of want more, and then that's when you started thinking about going to LA?
No, I got into Dreamboy just before they got their big deal. I got in just before when they were called Foreplay. It was called Foreplay before Dreamboy. And I got in then and started working with them, and then watched the whole process with the managers doing their magic for them, and then getting them signed to Quincy Jones' label. And then they changed the name to Dreamboy. So I was there all the way from the beginning and all the way to the breakup that happened later on, and I think it was '86. And then that's when I decided to move to Los Angeles to continue.
What year did they start, Vinnie?
Well, they started in high school as I think they were called Fresh, and they started pretty much through the high school years. And then Jeff Stanton left in '79 and went to Boston Berklee School of Music in Boston. Berklee School of Music in Boston, which that was the home where Quincy Jones actually went. So it was very ironic that he ended up signing to Quincy Jones. And he came back from Boston and got his group back together. And then they started calling themselves Foreplay and started doing some gigs around town. And then they found the management, and then they went and got a deal. And they put out the song independently first. And then Quincy Jones and them picked up on that through Electrifying Mojo, the DJ in Detroit that was big and famous, Electrifying Mojo, who also broke Prince. He ended up breaking Dreamboy, and also Ready for the World came up right behind Dreamboy. So it was a very exciting moment in the 80s, in 82, 83, 84.
So that's why I asked, were they trying to compete with DeBarge and Prince because they had that sound? I know they're influenced by Motown, but Motown was fading.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Before Dreamboy, Jeff Stanton and L. DeBarge and Fred Hammond from Commission, and the gospel guy, they were all buddies, all friends.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
So they're influencing each other.
Yeah, they used to practice. They used to practice in Jeff's basement all the time. And then when Al DeBarge left to go to LA and form his group, and they got signed by Motown, he actually asked Jeff Stanton to come and play for his group but Jeff turned him down and went to Boston School of Music, because that's what his thing was, to get his college degree. And so there's history with all of that, you know what I mean? And I was able to. I met Jeff when he came home from Boston. I didn't meet him early at Oak Park early. I met him through George Dewey Twyman in the 80s, in 82. Yeah. And that's when because they had been playing since 78, 77, 78 or whatever. And so like I said, there's parallel to the careers of all the DeBarge, Fred Hammond Commission, Jeff Stanton and Dreamboy, and they all from Detroit area. Even though Elder Barge is from Grand Rapids, his father was from
That ain't that
Detroit.
far a drive. Yeah, right.
So they spent a lot of time in Detroit because of their father, and they all went to church together, that kind of thing. So, and then Jeff Bass was doing his thing in Oak Park with Was Not Was people and Louis Resto and a couple of other guys that was on another side of the business. So those guys had a lot of experience coming up and playing with great musicians around town. So it was definitely competitive and definitely friendly. You know what I mean? So they got that experience, and so it carried on. And so, hey, what more can I say? I mean, I was following then. I wasn't leading. I was always in the shadow, just with a wide eye, smiling and saying, "Hey, one day I'm gonna be on that stage." You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask Lord G a question. What's the difference in age between you and Vinnie, Lord G?
Well, let's see. I'm about to be 55, and what, Vince? You 61, right?
62. I'll be 63 in July.
All right. So
okay. So we're looking at 7 years.
7 years. So not that big a difference. So, like when you got into the rap business, Vinnie, you knew what it was, but you just weren't that interested in it. Is that what it was? Was that why you were so surprised that he got into it?
Well, no, I enjoyed it, and I liked the early rap game. But did I think that I was going to have something to do with rap? No, I didn't. I'm an R&B funk guy. But when my cousin when I found out, Jeff Stanton, who was dealing with him in Detroit, he called me up
Jeff
one day.
Worked with you, Lord G?
Yep, he let me start practicing making beats in his studio that he had in his house. That was one of the foundation parts of me unraveling.
Okay. And do you do all your own writing, or do you work with somebody for that part?
Oh, yeah, I do all my own writing.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah. So do you still rap? Do you still write? Do you work with other artists? Are you doing any mentoring for other artists that are in the rap business?
Absolutely. I do, I've been kind of in a mentor lane. I didn't even realize I didn't really know it myself. And Vince would point it out to me along the way, but this goes back to when I was even with Death Row. I was vocal coaching Bow Wow, and this is back when he was 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I've been doing the mentoring and the helping to guide and try to lead people in a powerful direction for quite some time. Even now, I ghostwrite for several different artists, and I write all my own material. I got some new stuff that's going to be dropping coming soon. We're trying to figure out the right way to position it because the game